Vaettiheim, turn 1. Always exciting to start a new game. There was chaos. There will be chaos shortly. So yeah, let's take a look at our spawn. This is pretty good news for us. We're not right on a coast. This map actually has significantly less water. There are a lot fewer water nations in late age as compared to a lot of other ages. There are actually a decent number of nations that either can get into the water or want to get into the water, but I think Relay is the only nation that actually has an underwater start. So late age Relay, will be in here. They're a pop kill nation. I think they're going to have their work cut out for them because there's going to be a lot of nations that are going to want to get into that water. This is perhaps not enough water. Certainly if I was like Joman, that would be a bit sad. We are actually close to a lake, which is not great considering that there's a number of water powers that are going to want to get into lakes. We have death magic, and death magic is a decent way for land nations to get underwater. So it's not like we can't get underwater. But it's not easy for us. It's not really our preferred thing. We may have to share this lake with people. But of course, it's going to be a tight map. There's going to be some other people even closer. So we're probably not going to have to worry too much about underwater, which is good because of our start position. And then we're right next to a forest, which is really nice, right? We want forests, we have pretty good access. These two forests we should be able to get quite quickly. This is less good that there's a throne here. A throne in your cap circle is always, I don't know, kind of wonky. It's fine, we have good access to a throne, but it does mean that, we're kind of down a cap circle province early on. But we have plenty of connections, and this forest will provide resources, and we're not especially resource dependent. In fact, actually, we don't really need that many resources as Vaettiheim, so totally fine that we have a throne here. But it does mean that we'll probably want a fort here, so we won't really be able to do foreign recruitment out of this forest. So kind of sad that the throne decided to spawn in a forest, but not the end of the world because there's another forest down here which we could conceivably get to. We can sneak through. Actually, we could literally sneak through the throne. We might be able to take this waste and then get down here, and then we could potentially get this forest as well, and then there's another. So we got plenty of forests. There are some areas on this map, if we were maybe over here, we'd be a little sad. Anyway, decent spawn, definitely. I will see you guys after orders have been issued. All right, not too many orders here to issue. No movement. We are profiting our starting commander. I just like the early candle spread. And then for our recruitment, we're actually getting our sacreds, the Rimvetti, and then, just one Wolf Brother. We're mostly going to be using Wolf Brothers to expand, which is pretty standard. Getting the Rimvetti is kind of non-standard. They don't do as well because they have, ice power or cold power. And while it's cold in our capital, it is spring and it's going to be summer, and our scales, won't have spread. So they're going to be fighting in the heat, and they will do significantly less well. But I find that they still expand pretty well. The other option usually to add to the starting army is Berserkers, and we could add more Berserkers. I think we can get 8-ish, a couple more Berserkers as compared to our Rimvetti. The Berserkers are really good, and I don't think there's anything wrong with going that route, but they don't have great defense, and they tend to attrit out faster than the Rimvetti. I don't know. It's a bit of a toss-up. The Rimvetti, have much better defense, and we have a bit of defense on the Bless, and I find that defense is pretty effective, when expanding. So anyway, I like to get Rimvetti to start with, but a lot of people don't, and totally understand that. And then also, probably a little controversially, I just kind of like assassins, and the Dimvetti are pretty cool. I think they're neat. They get Dust Dagger, which is really effective, but they are capital only. And so are these, right? And these are your best casters, and you really should be recruiting these casters rather than your Dimvetti. So you can't really justify the Dimvetti very much. Except a little bit during expansion, right? So, this is going to help speed up our expansion a little, not much. And yeah, I mean, I just kind of like having a few assassins, and I kind of like assassin expansion. Weirdly, it's not great. The Dinvetti ungeared are actually a little inconsistent. As is the case with like many assassins. This Dust Dagger is good in a lot of cases, but doesn't really matter so much against indie commanders, I find. So they tend to be about as inconsistent as like just regular human assassins. I think against like tougher targets, this Dust Dagger is going to matter more, but against like the regular, indie commanders, but I like them, and this is really the only time that you can at all justify them, in my opinion. So that is what we're going with. It's going to leave us pretty broke. Didn't actually check. Let's take a look. What mercenaries are there? The Merry Men. I like that name. Not familiar with this mercenary company. How much they want? 100 pounds. Yeah, I'm not going to gamble on mercenaries. This is probably something I should get into more. But it's like if you spend if you spend a chunk of your money on mercenaries and then don't get them, that does kind of set you back. So if your expansion is consistent without mercenaries, which Vaettiheim's expansion is just fine. I think you're better off, using your own national troops if you don't have to get the mercenaries. And then, we're not going to move our assassin out yet. A lot of times I do move my starting scout out, but in this case I want to see like what indie pop types there are, and figure out like, okay, well, what is going to be the best place to assassinate the commanders, and rather than moving him blindly and then realizing like, ooh, actually that's not a good target for him. So he's going to hang out at home, and then he'll move out with his buddies next turn to do some assassinating. So I think that covers turn 1. All right, time for Fullest House, first edition, where we are playing Vaettiheim. This is turn 2. Shouldn't be too much going on. We had a bunch of profits. Fewer than I'm used to from Full House. There's fewest nations in the late age, so this is actually the smallest Full House I've played in. So let's take a look at our indie types here. Looks like we have a very easy waste province. Sometimes this means there's a bunch of wizards there. Sometimes there really is just like a few commanders. So that's interesting. Nothing looks too hard near us. I think we can expand into all of this without too much difficulty, barring of course the throne. Oh, there's a sphinx. Okay, that might be a bit of a problem. We'll have to see what sort of gems they're rocking, and there's a bunch of fire snakes. Dust walkers that have like a heat aura. This could be a bit of a problem because we do not have fire. That is something that Vaettiheim is missing. So, and you definitely want, some sort of fire resistance or fire something when you're going up against fire snakes and dust walkers. On the other hand, this is right next to our capital, and we took cold 3, right? And, these heat auras and everything are going to be for the dust walkers, are going to be a lot less effective in the cold. So once we spread our scales to this, it should be less scary. But I don't think this is going to be a walkover sort of throne. So that's going to block us for a little bit, and means we probably aren't... Oh, this is Bogaroos. So we're definitely not going to get this forest in terms of, just putting a lab there and doing some foreign recruit. So let's see if we can see... I forgot, in late age, you can see a lot farther away. I think up to like 3 provinces. So here's Abyssia. They also have a throne in their province, their cap circle, which is probably going to push them down towards us, which is kind of unfortunate. So we do need to race here a little bit. I should probably reach out to these players immediately and try to establish borders, because, if he takes his cap circle and I take my cap circle, like, that's it. We have a border. Now, he probably has heat dominion, so it might be a bit of a hassle for him to actually get down to this farm. But for Bogaroos, he can definitely get into that farm. Bogaroos might be like our first war target, because this forest would be nice, this farm would be nice. Once we get our scales in, we'll be able to freeze this river and get across, but that will take a little bit, so I don't think we're going to be able to get over to this farm right away. So we're probably looking at expansion kind of to the northeast, and maybe the southeast. Of course, this being full house, there's probably people over here as well. This would have been one advantage to moving my Dinvetti out immediately, as I could have gotten province information a little bit farther away. Normally in like early age, which is kind of what I'm used to, it doesn't really matter because you only see one province ahead, so it's not like that. It's not that significant. But in late age, you can kind of see what's coming. All right, excuse me. I was dragging you guys into the micro of dominions, and as exciting as it is to watch me click on various random provinces to see if they're capitals, might be better if I do it ahead of time. So this is what we're up to. We're sending the starting army into this province. It's a pretty easy one, although there are a lot of numbers here, so I might do a little bit of testing. We might go after the crossbows instead. We don't love archers as Vaettiheim, but militia are pretty awful, and our starting army does have some archers. So we're set up with our archers in front here. There's an argument for skirmish, but our morale is already not great, so I think I don't know. It's probably a toss-up. I prefer to not lose the morale. But anyway, we're going to fire at archers, right? So hopefully the archers will keep each other busy. We don't really care about these archers long-term. So, if they die, that's fine. That's not really the strength of this expansion party. And these guys are just going to attack closest. And they're going to chew up the militia really effectively. The back positioned hopefully enough so that they don't get targeted by the archers. We'll see. And then our prophet is going to bless everybody, sermon of courage, because we have some morale problems. And then the holy nuke spell to help out. So pretty high hopes. May switch to this. But I've reached out to Auspicious. They haven't gotten back yet, so we'll see. But probably, it's nice to not have to worry about a neighbor coming after you. So there's a good chance this is going to be peaceful. And then Bogarus got back to me, and they agreed that they'll stay out of my cap circle as long as I stay out of theirs. So Bogarus is traditionally a rush target, and Vaettiheim definitely can rush. So, we'll see where we end up. But, he could have like an awake pretender. Like I've been burned a lot of times. So let's we'll take a look at the situation, not make any assumptions. But since, we know that this province should be safe, right? Because Bogarus agreed not to expand into it. And probably this one is safe as well. So we can leave these for later if we want. And that is why the assassins are headed over here, right? Because they're not very quick at expanding. And this is definitely something we can assassinate. We actually don't mind heavy cavalry. This isn't actually that much stuff. So, we could send an expansion party out this way and at least clear this wasteland. And, this forest would be really nice, but it's really close to Auspicious. Kind of. He does kind of have to loop around. And it's fairly close to, Bogarus as well. So there's a decent chance that we're just not going to escape in all likelihood. And even if we do, it'll leave us like with this weird extension of territory. So would love to get this forest, but I don't think that's realistic. However, we're probably going to move our stack of assassins into this farmland, because there's a decent chance that some of these provinces will slow down, right? Auspicious and Bogarus, and they're going to be thinking this is going to stay independent, so they're not going to see my flag, and they think they'll have time. And there's a fair chance that this is kind of a nasty population type, like heavy cavalry. Auspicious can probably clear them with their sacreds, although it depends on their build, and I'm actually less familiar with like late age Auspicious sacreds. I know they kind of taper off as the ages go on in terms of their strength. And Bogarus can struggle with expansion, so they may not get up here in time. And we can assassinate this and hopefully recruit. We don't have this forest yet, but we will. We'll recruit a hearse from this forest and hopefully send him over. It'll probably take 2 turns. The Wolf Riders are decently fast, but Vaettiheim is actually pretty slow. But anyway, we can send him over to capture this, and it'll be disconnected expansion, but only for a little bit, because then we can send our assassins back and then just backfill this. And then in the capital, we are recruiting a hearse. This will hopefully be the only hearse that we recruit out of our capital, but it should speed our expansion a little bit. And then we're recruiting one more Dimveti. This will probably be the last one, at least for expansion. We'll see. But definitely do want to get a mage. And then, of course, yeah, Wolf Brother. Our recruitment's probably going to look like this roughly for troops for the rest of expansion. And we'll probably wait one turn. I like doing around 20 Wolf Riders. Seems to expand like pretty reliably, and it doesn't take too much attrition. You can definitely get away with fewer, but I'm not great at Vaettiheim's expansion yet. I actually struggled initially with Wolf Brother expansion. I was trying to do attack rear, and I haven't really figured that out yet. They tend to get strung out and killed, so you kind of need probably like bait squads, and I haven't really played around with that too much. So we're probably just going to be brute forcing it with, larger than strictly necessary Wolf Brother expansion groups. But yeah, like especially in a tight map like this, even where we might bump into somebody else, I'd rather bump into them with 20 Wolf Brothers instead of 10 or 12 that's been whittled down. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't have the fastest expansion, so that may come back to bite us. But we also definitely have the option of taking an early war. And then our next recruitment will probably be a Vaettiheim. We are running full Misfortune, right? Misfortune 3, so bad events are definitely possible. I looked into it, and assuming I haven't missed an event, which I very well may have missed one, but it looks like the earliest that your lab can be destroyed from events is turn 8. So as long as we have a mage, because our pretender is imprisoned. So if we were to lose our only lab or only temple, and similarly, it looks like, I didn't find anything destroying temples before turn 8 either. But anyway, we need both, right, to recruit our mages. So if we were to lose either one of those before we recruited a mage, that would be disastrous because we wouldn't be able to, build a lab at least until our pretender came out. Our prophet would be able to build us a temple, so losing the temple wouldn't be as bad, although, of course, still annoying. And until we stack a bunch of these guys on the capital, right, with their fortune teller, we're going to be at risk. We're going to see some misfortune, I expect. So yeah, I think that covers turn 2, and we'll see how it goes. All right, Fullest House 1E. We are playing Vaettiheim, and it is turn 3. So we have our first expansion of the game, always a momentous moment, especially if you have not played the nation before. You can do all the testing you want, but kind of doesn't really mean anything until you do it live and actually have it work out. So I think there's something to be said for going against an easy province for your first target. It really just is like a confidence builder. It looks like, unfortunately, the archers are going for the guys we care about. So they have chosen correctly, but we're far enough away, and there's not too many archers. We're doing okay. Obviously, the militia we're not too worried about. It looks like there are actually some heavy infantry in here, which I missed on the scout report, or they were possibly hidden because there were so few, but that's fine. We kill heavy infantry really easily. Wow. It is harder. That's one of the things with our low strength, right? And this will get better in the cold, but in general, the Veti have, poor strength. So heavy armor we can struggle with a bit if it's a whole pile of heavy infantry. But yeah, we're able to take out the militia. No problem. These archers hang out longer than we'd like. We're definitely taking damage. I see some bleeding in there. We're going to have some losses. But yeah. I don't know. I haven't figured out lossless goblin expansion. I'm sure it's possible. Hey, there you go. We actually didn't get any losses. So never mind. Yeah, definitely a successful results. We will start to attrit out, especially the Veti spearmen. But yeah, I'm very happy about this. Although, yeah, not a hard province. And then we had an unexpected event on our capital. Defense -8, a classic, the yellow mold. So yeah, our defense is going to be pretty screwed on top of our capital. But, as far as misfortune events go, we'll survive. So yeah, I will see you guys after the jump. All right, so this is the situation and what we're doing about it. For our second expansion, we're going to go after this forest here. Looking pretty easy, similar to the last one. Significantly fewer units here, although enough heavy infantry to show up in the report. So, you know, it could be a little tougher in that sense, but yeah, this should be a pretty easy province. We really want forests. Forests are good for us. So yeah, we're going to try to grab that next. We do see this is a knight province down here. We don't love knights. Knights have very high protection, so they can be a bit tough for us to cut through. However, I think this is a large farm. It's definitely a farmland, and I think based off the graphics, you can actually kind of tell by like the number of houses, I guess, whether or not like it's a large or a small farm. See if we can find one that's small. Yeah, so I think like this guy, especially because there's a mountain here, so it'll cut into it. So you can see there's only 2 houses here. Probably a less valuable farmland. Like this would be a lot more valuable. So anyway, pretty sure that, you know, this little like fortification here means that it's one of, if not the largest sizes of provinces. All this to say, Vaettiheim does like putting forts, it seems like, in areas that have very high recruitment points. So you want high population. As an alternative, we could also potentially put one here. If we do manage to pull this off, we could put one here. So yeah, these are probably our first, you know, fort options. And then for our assassins, we're going to assassinate with 2 of them here. Again, you know, we could take this with our units, and there's a chance that we're going to run into mounted commanders, which Dinvetti like less than normal commanders, but it seems to be a bit random. You know, definitely don't do any assassinating against like a knight province. Then you'll get knight commanders. But in terms of regular mounted commanders versus, you know, those on foot, it seems to be a bit disconnected from population type. So, you know, sometimes you just run into mounted commanders wherever. So we're going to give it a shot. Might lose these assassins, but I have high hopes. And then we're going to take our third one and just scout out into this farm and see if, right, this could be knights as well. So, you know, we're going to do some assassinating here because fairly confident that it can work. We'll see. But don't know, you know, if we can do any assassinating here in Rafabolia. So we may just have to send our assassin back, you know, if it's knights. But if it's not, then, you know, we'll start assassinating there as well, probably, and we'll get a little more information, you know, about, like, how is Abysia expanding, and, you know, is there anybody else over here? And, you know, maybe, like, how is Bogarus expanding, which will all be interesting information. We know, at least, that Bogarus did not expand into this province, which is good news, because that, you know, is their fastest route into this farm. And then for recruitment, we're actually getting a goad, mostly due to money issues, but, you know, I do have plans for these guys. They research okay, and they're sacred, so, you know, their upkeep isn't, you know, too bad, and N1 isn't fantastic, but it's okay, and they are priests, so they can bless themselves, so you can kind of use them as a thug. I mean, not really. But anyway, I have some plans for these guys. I feel like they're not terrible. Worst case scenario, you can just use them to cast Swarm like later, and, you know, they do research acceptably well. So I don't hate having some of these guys. You know, obviously using like cap turns for it is not ideal, but yeah, we don't have the money for other stuff. Wolf Brothers, you know, they're not super cheap. They're cheap, but they're still cavalry. So yeah, so we're getting Wolf Brothers, and then we'll send this expansion party out next turn. This guy, not 100% sure where yet. It kind of depends. We are doing a little bit of foreign recruitment here. We need some lance catchers. Maybe you should get the archers for lance catchers. They are a little cheaper, but yeah, I don't know. The infantry, yeah, we don't love arrow fire, so it's like having archers is, yeah, I don't know. Can work, but it can also mean a lot of friendly fire. So anyway, this is going to help us take the Knight Province, and then, yeah, we're getting a hearse here. So we may try to go for the Knight Province right away. I think we can get there movement-wise. No, probably not. 23. Let's see, how fast? 18. So yeah, we can't quite get there in one turn. We probably can't get into this waste in one turn either. Yeah, so, but that's okay. We will probably just move into the forest, do another round of lance catching recruitment, and then go for this province, and then, you know, try to get our first fort here, because not really seeing anybody else out here, right, capital wise, so we may actually have some room to expand down here a little bit. And, like, yeah, both of these forests looking very juicy. You know, there's a cave system here you can use to get through, but otherwise this river is actually going to block access. over to these lands and make it a bit of a hassle. And then to the south here, there's some mountain passes and a throne. So yeah, I think we'll be able to get down here and pick up a decent amount of this. We did see Marignon's capital, so I haven't reached out to them yet, but I will. I think I've played with this player before, and then they probably, I don't know, they may have taken heat scales, in which case, we can use this river as a pretty easy border, which I would be fine with, and would leave me with the forest. And I don't really know if I want to deal with, his coastal spawn, right? So whatever underwater shenanigans is going to be happening is very much going to be, Marignon's business that he'll need to keep himself up on and deal with. And, if we go over there and take his stuff in his capital, then those problems will become our problems. So maybe better to just have a friendly neighbor here. Do need to be careful about having too many friendly neighbors since we want to knife someone. But yeah, Abyssia did get back to me, agreed to stay out of Cap Circle provinces, so we should be okay. We can wait on this one for a little while, and focus our efforts elsewhere. And then when Bogarus got back to us, he let us know that Utgard's capital is here in 13. So Utgard is a fairly powerful nation, and they may have some interest in coming in against Bogarus, especially if Bogarus sends their expansion kind of south and cuts into Utgard a bit. So maybe work with Utgard to wipe out Bogarus early on, and then Utgard is in a forest, has a lot of access to a lot of forests. We like forests, like this, long term, this sort of shape here wouldn't be horrible, I feel like. So yeah, we'll see. That's all very long term. Let's not fail expansion first. So we are going to be recruiting a mage. We're not going to do any researching this turn, but next turn we're going to be doing some research. And I'm going for alteration 4. We might just halt at 3. 5 is nice. There's other things that Vaettiheim wants to research, definitely blood, I think, some construction, enchantment, definitely, at least a little bit of thaumaturgy. So yeah, there's lots of options. I think if you want to knife someone early, alteration is probably the way to go. So that's what I've queued up here. And yeah, I think that covers turn 3.